Okay, hello, good morning, good afternoon, and welcome. My name is Andrea Bell, and I am the National Program Manager for Customer Intelligence in PBS's Office of Portfolio Management and Customer Engagement. And I'll be serving as your host today for our special edition of the Client Enrichment Series just for PBS OASIS users. So again, let me note that this session is being recorded. You will be able to view this recording of the session on our Client Enrichment Series YouTube playlist. And in fact, you can view over 50 recordings of previous CES sessions, topics ranging from RWA policy and practices to leasing, to occupancy planning, and even co-working. And I'll put a link to that chat pane in the chat pane for that playlist. You'll be able to see it and hopefully visit it and bookmark and watch some of your favorite sessions. Today, our presenters and subject matter experts all hail from the PBS Office of Portfolio Management and Customer Engagement. You see them here on your screen, and I'm going to just take a minute to introduce them. So first, we have with us Lisa McCoy. Give us a little wave there, Lisa. Lisa is our program manager. She's in the Pricing, Policy, and Tools group, and she's a member of the National Rent Billing Office, which is the business line that's leading the development of OASIS, the OA tool replacement. Lisa's been with GSA for 28 years. She began working in both Atlanta in Region 4 and then in GSA's central office in Washington, D.C. Lisa has a wide range of previous experiences in PBS, including with the Consolidation Program, Historic Preservation, Art and Architecture, and Regional Data Management, and she's also served as the Special Assistant to 2 Regional Assistant Commissioners. Deanne Salazar is also with us today. Hi, Deanne. Deanne works side by side with Lisa in that National Rent Billing Office on customer billing and GSA policy. Deanne has been with GSA for over 20 years, beginning in Region 6 out of Kansas City, before moving to central office about 16 years ago. And rounding out our presentation and our first speaker for our event is Carlos Salazar, our lead space pricing specialist. Carlos has been with GSA for about 19 years and has served as the team lead of pricing in our central office group for 13 years. He's been involved in various initiatives and teams such as the Courts Service Validation Initiative. He began his GSA career in Region 6 as an intern and where he joined portfolio management. He holds a BA in business administration from Trinity University and has an MBA from the University of Texas at San Antonio. So that is our presentation team. But before I turn the presentation over to the gang, I'd like to share just a couple of housekeeping instructions with our audience. As you can tell, we're using the Zoom for Government platform today. This platform allows you to customize your viewing experience by maximizing or minimizing the presentation area, as well as your various pods from your view panel. So you can choose to arrange that however you see fit to enjoy the presentation. You can also access closed captioning in our system. We're going to have the closed captioning enabled so that you can see the captions and view subtitles on your screen. And that's probably available on the bottom of your Zoom panel under View Subtitles. Now, your microphones and cameras have been disabled to help us control the sound quality of the presentation and to keep the focus on the presenters. But we would really love to hear from you throughout the session. So on your Zoom control panel, please take a moment to identify the chat pane, which some of you have already used, and also the Q&A pod. Now, we like to have a little business rule here where we ask you that you please use the chat pod for any administrative questions that you may have about the platform or technical issues, and I'll help you out with those. But please use the Q&A pod to reach out to our occupancy agreement subject matter experts who will be monitoring that Q&A, and they're going to be able to answer those specific questions for you today. It keeps all of those kinds of questions together in one spot for our experts and helps them respond to you more effectively if they're in the Q&A pod rather than in the chat. And finally, any questions about OASIS today that come up that we aren't able to get to and answer live, we're going to note all the questions and we'll prepare a formal Q&A document that we will post to our CES website along with the recording for today and the slide deck. So with that all out of the way now, I'm going to turn the session over to Carlos. Carlos, please take it away.
Thank you so much, Andrea. All right, so now that we took care of our housekeeping items, let's jump right into our agenda. And let's just give the slide 1 second to advance. There we go. So we'll be covering the what's and the whys of why we're here today and what it is that we're going to be presenting on. We're going to be talking about giving an overview of OASIS, talking about what that is and how OASIS is a fully electronic approval process. And talk about how we can approve OAs directly within the OASIS system and how we've also formatted and simplified the occupancy agreement, the OA. We'll be talking about how timing for when you should expect to receive and approve those OAs have changed. And then we'll be talking about other activities that you can do within OASIS related to your space and OAs. And then lastly, we'll be covering what are the next steps and what are things that you will be expected as a POC and your customer agency to give back to GSA. So there will be an ask here at the end of the presentation. We do ask you to hang on at least till that long. And then finally at the very end, we'll have a Q&A session. We do anticipate that the presentation itself will only be an hour long and that the question and answer session will probably be an hour or so. That gives us plenty of time to answer your questions. So let's jump right into our first poll question. And that is, have you heard anything about OASIS? And you have 3 choices. That is A, yes, I've attended or reviewed a recording of a previous CES session on OASIS. Or B, yes, I've seen some communication on it, but haven't seen a detailed presentation yet. Or C, no, wait, what is OASIS? And please make sure you actually click the A, B, or C on the poll itself, not in the chat. And that way we can have a summary here in just a few moments.
For folks who might not be able to see that pop-up poll in the Zoom platform, we do welcome you to use the chat, however, if you'd like to weigh in on this poll. Appreciate that. All right, Carlos, the respondents seem to have flattened out. I think I'm going to go ahead and close that poll and let's look at the results.
Oh, interesting. So it looks like 28% of you have attended or reviewed a recording on OASIS. 48% of you haven't seen any detailed presentation yet. And 25% of you are, what is OASIS? So we got quite a few folks here that I think you'll have a lot of useful information out of this presentation today. So don't worry if you've never heard about it or not familiar with it. We're going to cover that all right now. Okay, so jumping in, what is OASIS? OASIS stands for the Occupancy Agreement and Space Inventory System. There we go. And it is our new system within GSA PBS that's replacing our current occupancy agreement, OA tool, and spatial management and drawing tool known as eSmart. It is also replacing EOA, if you've ever used that, which provides a view of your billing OAs. It is the system that we are moving to have all review and approval of our OAs directly within OASIS. And it's going to provide you access to all your OA information. OASIS will also allow you to ask questions directly within the system about your rent bill or your occupancy agreements. It will be the mechanism used to make releases of space. So there's an entire release of space process built directly within that system. So in summary, you're going to review and approve your OAs directly within OASIS. You can ask questions about your rent bills and OAs within the system, and all release of space requests will be happening directly within OASIS. So when does this all start? It happens right after our country's birthday on our go live date of July 5th of this year. So that's right, folks. We are less than 4 months away. So now that we answered a what, let's move right on to why. So why is my name on the POC list? How did I get invited to this meeting? What am I doing here? Well, we started off attaining customer points of contact for OASIS with your agency bureau's CFO. From there, sometimes we got a name, sometimes 10 emails later, we got a point of contact we were referred to. And if after this presentation, you think, you know what, I'm not the right person to be this point of contact for this OASIS system, then please have a conversation with other folks within your agency and bureau, and please send those changes to who that contact should be to pbsoasis@gsa.gov. So what is the point of contact, the customer POC role? What are we expecting from you? Well, really what that is it's the single point of contact for your agency bureau for all the implementation and planning activities related to OASIS. We're going to expect that POC to provide GSA a list of all the users within your agency bureau for OASIS. We're expecting you to pass along any key information from GSA to all the relevant stakeholders within your agency. And you're also responsible for ensuring that any of your internal processes are aligned with how OAs will be reviewed and submitted within OASIS by that go live date of July 5th of this year. So with that, let's move into some process. And we're going to start off with another poll question. Do you currently review or approve OAs, occupancy agreements? And your three choices are A, yes, you do review or approve them. No, you don't review or approve them. Or C, what is an OA? So I'll give you just a moment to submit those. And thank you, Andrea. Looks like, yes, most of you, 79%, do review or approve OAs. And then we have about 20% who do not. Another 2%, what is an OA? Well, an OA is our occupancy agreement. It is our interagency agreement between GSA and the customer agency that details the financial rent. So let's talk about some of the things that are staying the same that you won't see changing, and is that OA remain be that financial rent agreement between your customer agency and GSA. You can still download OAs as PDFs, and we will still be using CPAs or client project agreements as a planning document at the beginning of your project, and that will still have financial estimates for you. We will still be providing rent information that we provide every year to help your CFO folks plan and budget for what that rent to GSA is going to look like, and we will still make available our rent on the web tool to where you can actually see those rents online. Now that we've covered what's staying the same, let's jump in and highlight what is changing. So I'll briefly cover these changes and then I'll dive into detail on our next slides. But what's changing is you're no longer going to receive OAs via email or, heaven forbid, mail, or sometimes I still see fax machines in the office. I hope we're not still using those, but however you got them, they will now be happening within OASIS. We will also have it to where someone must approve electronically by clicking an approve button that OA within OASIS. So we're moving from the signature to an actual approval within the system. The actual OA itself has been reformatted and it's going to have a different look, and we'll show you what that is in a few slides here. We'll also be sending a lot less OAs to you. We've revamped our process to where we're only asking you for OA approval when it makes sense, when it really adds value. So that'll take a lot of the administrative burden off of you, and make it simple to know when you need to look at these things. We will also be able to open and view all of your OAs directly within OASIS. So it is that single point of system that's going to have all the OAs right in one place rather than kind of digging through your inbox. So again, the entire OA process is going to be electronic within OASIS. There's going to be no more wondering who in my customer agency has this OA. Was it emailed to somebody else? Was it emailed to me and I didn't see it? You'll always be able to tell in OASIS who was sent to and who got it. All of the OAs within OASIS, we'll be able to see when it was sent, who is currently reviewing it within your agency, when it was approved, and we'll provide that tracking information within OASIS. Now, all OAs within OASIS are going to be sent to a central queue for your agency bureau, and then you can assign or reassign those OAs internally. Now, you can also set up an internal process for passing OAs through different levels of review within your agency or bureau, because there is a reassign function within OASIS. Now, within OASIS, you will also be able to sort and filter through all your OAs. So if you want to see all your OAs for a certain building or a certain geographic location, you'll be able to do that. You'll be able to view the status of all the OAs and have reports that show you what those are. You can still download and save the OA as a PDF document. And if you want for hard copy file storage, you could sign it or electronically sign it to keep it. And you will receive notifications directly within the OASIS system of when there's updates and when action is required on your part to either review or approve an OA. So how does that approval process work? Again, instead of signing an OA, those users within OASIS are going to be clicking an approve button directly within OASIS. And we're calling all those users within our customer agencies who can approve the OAs ordering officials. So each agency is going to determine who those ordering officials will be. And you're going to determine your own internal process for how those approvals will be made, and whether there's multiple steps of review before you get to that final ordering official. Now, let's give you some examples of how this could work for your agency. And we'll say Agency A, for example, has a current OA signer, which is Jane. Jane can be within OASIS and she can review and approve all those OAs. Maybe that's really simple. You have a single point of contact and Jane is your person who approves the OAs. She goes in there, clicks the approve button. That's all there is to it. Now, maybe you're agency B and you have someone who currently signs the OAs, but there's someone who reviews them first before it gets to Bob, and that person is Kathy. Well, if you want to do that all within OASIS, you would both need to be OASIS users. Kathy could review the OA within OASIS and then using that reassign feature, because remember, it's all going to a central queue. Kathy takes it. Once she's done with the review, she can reassign it to Bob, and then Bob could formally click that approve button within OASIS. Now, another example is, here we'll call it Agency C, where you have an OA signer, and maybe in this case it's Megan and the CFO, who signs after Tom's team reviews it. Now, Tom can be within OASIS, and once his review is complete, he can download or print that OA for Megan to sign or approve. And then once Megan signs or approves it, Tom can go back within OASIS and then click the approve button within OASIS. So as you can see, you can adapt your own internal process for how you review and approve OAs with our OASIS system. In summary, there's multiple ways you can manage internally your review process. As a POC, we're asking you to take a leadership role for helping determine how that's going to be. Our only requirement within GSA is that someone is selected, what we're calling those ordering officials, who can make those approvals within OASIS. Now that we've talked about the kind of approval process, let's talk some current OA activities. So what about OAs you've already signed for in projects? How's that going to work? Well, at go live, don't worry. If you already signed those OAs, using the old existing process, we're going to continue to honor those through FY24, next fiscal year. Those OAs will appear in OASIS. They'll be entered in when they're finalized for occupancy. And if there's been any updates that have happened since you signed it, then within OASIS, you will have that notice that you need an updated approval for that OA. Now, we've made several improvements to the OA itself and how it's formatted. And the reason for that is, we got a lot of feedback from both GSA internal folks and our customers that the OA experience wasn't great. Some of the common complaints we had were that there's a lot of boilerplate text, right, that didn't apply to my occupancy, and folks found confusing. We also got complaints that it was difficult to find information and where it was, and that the financial information that was included in OAs blended rates, and it was hard to tell, how that rate was developed. In addition, we also heard that there was a lot of inconsistency in the ad hoc clauses that you would see included in our OAs, in some of our OAs. So based on all that, we've made some improvements, and that is that all that boilerplate information is now gone. And we simply reference the pricing desk guide for how that policy governs the OA and how we charge rent. We have simplified the OA into kind of a table format that is a lot easier to read. And we'll show you things like rates that have effective and expiration dates. So by quickly looking at the table, you can see how long that rate is, when that rate starts, and how long it will be good for. No longer are you having to swap through 10, 20, sometimes when you have rate changes mid-year, even more pages to see what those rates are. Just at a glance at the table, that will be clear to you. We also have eliminated the blending rates, which people found confusing, because OASIS allows us to show separate blocks of space. And if those have different rates, like we do for our general storage space or tenant floor cut space, you can see what that rate is. Now, the majority of our clauses have been removed from our OAs to provide greater consistency, but of course, we'll still have some for some necessary specifics to your occupancy, such as broker commission credit, or when we have free rent, or if there is an agency-funded shell project that's ongoing, those details will still be included. Now, the reason we've removed a lot of those ad hoc and agency-specific clauses is it helps ensure that we're consistent in how that OA looks. It also avoids what we found was a lot of things that were written down that didn't really conform to policy and weren't approved to be in there, or quite frankly, might not have been worded very clearly and were quite confusing. So this helps provide us a greater consistency and customer experience with our OAs. Now, removing all the clauses doesn't change the OA policy. All of that can still be found in the pricing desk guide, which is referenced within the OASIS system. And OAs will still indicate, as you can see here on the screen, whether they're cancelable or non-cancelable. So you can see here on this summary that you have your OA number, whether it's in federally owned space or lease space, whether assignment is cancelable or non-cancelable, as long as with location information, like what is the address, what is the name of my building. You can see that all in the OA summary. And then further down in the OA summary, you actually see all your financial information. What are the rates for your occupancy? And as we said, again, instead of having this over 5, 10, 20 pages, it's all concisely summarized because you can see not only the rate, you can see the start date and the end date for all those rates. Now, this one is a GSA OA because we didn't want to show any any customer information to everyone else. So it does not have tenant improvements. But if there were any tenant improvements on your OA, you'd be able to see what that principal amount and what that amortization term is for that OA. So now let's move on to who the OA will actually document who approved the OA, and along with the date and time that that approval was made in the footer of the OA. So that will be visible for everyone to see. OASIS will also provide 3 what we're calling customer identified fields. And you're going to see these fields on the OA, and you can not fill them out or fill them out however you wish. And it can help you track, and this is one of the feedbacks we got from our customers who are involved in our beta testing, that these fields that customers can use to internally track and approve the OA. So maybe you want to use it as a identifier to locate, hey, this is a certain type of office or space. Maybe you want to use it so to help you with routing of who that OA should go to. However you want to use it, that is completely up to you. We have no restrictions, so you're going to decide that internally, and how you want to make those fields within OASIS that we're calling the customer identified fields to help you with your approval process. So now that we cover those improvements, let's move on to changes in the timeline for the OA process. And what's really great here is that OAs are only going to be created once final offers are received. So in a lease, we call that final proposal revisions if you're up to date with our leasing process, or in our federally owned process like best and final offers. And what that means is you're no longer going to have all those draft OAs that were sent at the beginning of a project with wild estimates that oftentimes were inaccurate and caused a lot of confusion for our customers, thinking, hey, why is my rent changing throughout the project? We, of course, are sending financial information through the CPA and other documents at the beginning of the project for what we think that rental information will be, along with what the RWA ask was. But now there's a clear distinction for when you see the OA, that really means that the rent that you will be expected to pay. Now, signing that OA also happens now at that award. So at the point we're awarding that lease or awarding that construction contract, that's when we're going to be creating that OA, sending it to you for your approval. And this change makes sense because within policy, since it was created, GSA has said you do not have any type of financial commitment until that award is made. So once we make that award, now there's a financial commitment on your agency, and that's why we're sending you the OA at that point. Now, most projects are only going to require that one OA approval. And if there are changes or revisions, change orders, revisions mid-project, most of those happen through RWA. But if there's something that impacts the rent, then you would see that you would see that updated OA within OASIS and the request to approve it before we move forward with that change. So what's great again about this process is not only is it streamlined, it dramatically reduces the volume of OAs that we're sending you, and really allows your review and approval to be value added, so that you're not wasting your time looking at the same OA over and over and over again. So again, whenever you see an OA sent to you within OASIS for approval, that means that there is an eminent award about to happen. So it is imperative that you review all the OAs in a timely manner, because if not, that causes a problem for our procurement and can delay your project. And again, all that early cost information at the onset of the project is still going to be communicated to your customer agency. We'll be using the CPA Client Project Agreement and other planning documents to help provide that information. I know a lot of that goes to project teams. If you're someone who's interested in seeing that, then obviously you'd want to, and you're not getting it now, obviously you'd want to coordinate internally and work with us to see who is getting that information. We can so that you can get it and see it as well. Now, during the project, GSA, of course, is going to be communicating with you through project meetings and updates all along the process. All that we're talking about here with OASIS is that the OA is happening right before award. That does not mean that we are not communicating with you, of course, like we always do. Now, with OASIS, you are going to get access to your data. So at Go Live on July 5th, you'll be able to see all those billing OAs directly within the system. No longer you fumbling through your network drive, through your emails, trying to search, hey, what's the last thing GSA sent me? You're going to be able to see not only all your current rates and square footage, you're going to be able to see those future rates as well. You're going to be able to save or print any of that information that you need at any time. And in federally owned space, you're actually going to be able to see your assignment drawings as new ways come online. Now, any new OAs are going to be viewable as soon as they are sent to you, and they will remain available to you within OASIS. So at any point, once you've reviewed it, approved it, you can always go back within OASIS to see what that OA was, when it was approved, and have it for your records. Now, what's great about OASIS is that it also has a billing question feature. So directly within the system, you can submit questions about your occupancy agreement and rent bill and send it directly to GSA. And that helps us so that we know exactly what OA or space that you have questions about. And as I mentioned earlier, the release of space feature. So when you're giving space back to GSA, that entire process is going to be within OASIS, entirely electronic. This will help us with track all the releases of space submitted and make sure that we are doing a timely approval of all those space release requests. The process will be fast and easy. It's going to help eliminate a lot of late actions that can sometimes occur with that release space process, and allows you as a customer agency to have search and view capabilities of those requests for your own reporting needs. Now, I said there would be an ask on what's next. So big next steps. We need, like GSA, we need you to identify all your OASIS users by May 15th. So that is before the go live date of July 5th. So by May 15th, we want the names of everyone who's going to be approving OAs and have that role of what we call ordering official. We'll have other users who can be designated as read only. So we want to know all the users and have those names submitted to GSA. Now, keep in mind, users can cover multiple AB codes, what we call agency bureau codes. Now, GSA uses agency bureau codes that you'll see on your current OA and in our future OAs to help identify the agency and bureau. It's similar to like the OMB Max AAAB codes, but tweaked slightly for our purposes. If you have unclarity on what your AB codes are, please let us know at PBS OASIS, GSA.gov, and we can help you with that. Now, we are going to have training for all our users, and in July is going to be a virtual self-paced training with some additional town halls to cover specific topics. So that's why it's also critically important that we get all the list of all the users by May 15th. Now, in terms of users, we have, unfortunately, this, OASIS is a commercial off-the-shelf product, and as such, we have to have licenses, and they are not unlimited. So there will be a limited number of ordering officials for each customer agency. It is imperative for GSA to be fiscally responsible, along with all our other federal agencies, and try to keep that OA process manageable as well, to where it's not going out to tons of different people. As an estimate, and of course this can vary because we know some agencies are larger than others, or some may not have as many AB codes, even though they have a lot of OAs, but on average, we are anticipating that each AB code will have about 5 ordering officials. Now, as we said before, we understand that some larger agencies might need more, especially if your agency does not have a lot of AB code breakouts, but please be reasonable with your ask. Send us the number that you think is appropriate for those ordering officials. And if you have a number that we just don't find workable, then we'll have to come back and discuss that with you to see, based on our license availability, what can we work that's both mutually agreeable. So how will you be submitting those names to us? We're asking that you send it to our central inbox, pbsoasis@gsa.gov. We are going to want that user's first name, last name, email address, and any AB codes that we're responsible for. So if you're, say, Department of Agriculture and you have lots of different AB codes, maybe that ordering official oversees multiple AB codes. We're going to want to know which ones can they review and approve as an ordering official. And again, we're going to want those names to that PBS OASIS inbox by May 15th. Some other action items. Not only do we want the names of all these users and ordering officials, we want you as the POC for your customer agency to help your agency adjust to the new OASIS process. Of course, each customer agency has their own process for how they review and approve OAs, and we want to make sure that you are helping align that with how OASIS will work and that ordering official role. So please keep in mind that that you have a conversation with all the relevant stakeholders on that internal process for reviewing and approving OAs. And as a POC, we're expecting you to communicate any information that we send along with the changes in process for receiving and sending OAs, and that releases of spaces are now going to happen within the OASIS system. So with that in mind, please use that as a springboard to have those internal conversations to make sure that we have as smooth a transition as possible when we go live for the OASIS system on July 5th. And of course, if you have any questions as you're having those conversations, or something that you didn't think about during this presentation but came up later, or questions, concerns, please submit them to our inbox, pbsoasis@gsa.gov. Now, with that, we will move to our final poll question, and that is, as a result of attending today's session, how much more informed do you feel about the July 5th implementation of OASIS? And you got 4 choices: significantly more informed, so kind of makes sense, about the same, or worse off. that we totally lost you, and you're definitely going to need a lot more support. And we'll give it just a moment here while Andrea gets those and then does the tally. It looks like 32% of you, almost a third, said you're significantly more informed. Glad to hear it. 62% are more informed. That's great. 5% are about the same. So we'll continue to work on that. And 2% are worse off. That's no good, but fortunately it is a small number. And again, if like we said earlier, if you do not feel like you are the right person to be serving as the POC, or I know we included a lot of backup POCs that agencies requested to attend today's session, then please use that to have an internal conversation, and let's figure out who that person is and send it to us within our inbox at pbsoasis.gov. With that, we're going to jump in right to the question and answer session of our presentation. And fortunately, I have Lisa and Deanne to help us with that.
Thanks, Carlos. We have gotten a lot of questions. I was trying to kind of monitor them at the same time that we were advancing the slides. So one theme that has come up a lot in different questions that I kind of wanted to dive into a little bit is the difference with the CPA agreement we've talked about and the OA timing. So I think maybe we'll kind of take a step back and explain that in a little bit more detail, and that might help answer several different questions. So currently, before we kind of started transitioning to the new OASIS process, you would get a CPA at around 36 or 25 months, depending on the project. And that CPA contains, if you're familiar with it, it has what's called the section 2H, and that's all the financial information. And normally that section was left blank and someone just said, see attached OA. And it would come with a draft OA that would have all that information on it. So what's happening now in the new process is there won't be that attached OA. Instead, they'll put all that financial information that was in the OA in section 2H. And that has the information on all the rent breakouts, the TI amounts, the square footage, and the term. So it's all the same information. It's just in a different format. We got a lot of feedback over the years that people felt like signing that OA at 25 or 36 months. When it contained estimates, they said, we're really committing ourselves. If as long as you come in under this amount, you're going to bill us. And we feel like we don't get a second chance to see the agreement before we're making the financial commitment. So that's the big change, is you're going to see the amounts, but you're going to see them in a client planning agreement, because that's what it is. It's at the planning stage. So you'll get that information. And then throughout the life, as we kind of move through the procurement process, if there are changes, if it's a several years project and costs are fluctuating, you're still getting those updates from GSA through various different formats depending on the project. And then right when we're ready to actually kind of put the rubber to the road, as they say, and award something, whether that's a lease contract or whether that's a construction contract in federal space, that's when you'll actually see the OA in the OA format that says, look, we're ready to roll. You've been informed of what the potential costs could be. You've been updated throughout the project. Here's, we put it out on the street. This is what we got back. Is this okay? Are you ready for us to proceed with this project or this procurement? And so you're signing in at that point. And then hopefully we'll be awarding the project and there won't be any change orders or costs that change your occupancy. If that happens, if it's one of those, multi-floor leases, standalone 3-year construction projects, there might be a change somewhere along the lines and you would get an updated OA. But chances are in most of those cases, what you're committing to at that point is going to reflect 100% what you're going to be billed, and we won't ask for an updated signature. So those are the two different documents, and when we'll be sending each to you, and kind of how we've pulled them apart, so to speak, in the process. So I don't know if that answered several questions or maybe generated several more. I saw the counter going up as I was talking, so we'll take a look at that.
And then there was another question I saw, which I can't find now because there's so many coming in, but it was, what does the OA kind of commit me to? Do I have to be a contracting officer to approve an OA? Can only contracting officers be, that have that ordering official role? What does that all mean? So let me try to answer that in general to answer several of those questions. Okay. First and foremost, no, you do not need to be a contracting officer to sign or approve an OA, what we're calling that ordering official role. It is up to you, each customer agency, for how they do that, but both currently and in the future, we do not anticipate those being contracting officers, not that it couldn't be. Keep in mind that the OA is an interagency agreement, so it is not a contract like you would have with the private sector, so a key distinction there. Also, the OA as an interagency agreement is not it is not incur any financial obligation on behalf of your agency at all up until GSA makes that award. And even after we make that award, you're only you only have an obligation for that current fiscal year. So even though an OA may cover many years, you are in no way financially obligated, creating a financial obligation until you've been appropriated funds for that year. Those are special authorities that GSA has and that flow through to our customers, and that makes things quite a bit easier for interagency rent and agreements. So keep that in mind as you're determining who can be these users. You do not have to be a contracting officer, and you do have financial liability once that award is signed when you're sending that away, but it is only for the current year. And you can find that information too within the Code of Federal Regulations. We'll put it in the Q&A document, but that's 41 CFR section 102-85 that talks about what that OA obligates you to and what it means financially.
Another question or series of questions that has been coming up is around when they can see OASIS. I completely understand everybody wants to get in and see it right away. Here's kind of the current environment. So we are in a development and a test environment right now, and the test environment has extremely limited users that can be in the test environment. And it's just for people to knock around and work on some development things. So we do not have the production environment up yet to give folks access to it. What we can do, which can be part of our kind of follow-up conversations over the next couple of months, we can provide screenshots for what these different sections look like, with the understanding that it's a little bit rough. It's the test site, it's not the formal training, but we can provide that so that at least you have a reference point as you talk in your agency about what kind of data you'll have access to, or what kind of process you have to be set up for. After that, we really have the training kind of being sent out at go live, because that's the date where we can say, here's a video to walk you through the training, and you can get in the system and bump around and click around and see all of these things. We experimented with a couple of different training scenarios and giving folks training without letting them have that hands-on experience. We got a lot of negative feedback for that. Folks didn't like that. And for those that learned by clicking and moving, they got pretty frustrated. So we're leaving it until we can kind of open the doors and let everyone in. You should not have OAs waiting for you on July 5th to approve. So that'll give us a little bit of time to roll out that training. give you a chance to move around, and then we'll couple it with town halls similar to this, where we'll set up a topic and then just kind of open the floor to questions and walking through and demoing different examples. So that's the plan. We'd love to let everyone in there and play around in it right away. Unfortunately, that's not possible, but we will kind of get a package together so that you can get a look and a feel for it as soon as possible. Also got a couple of questions about how data is going to be coming over and how can it be searched. And so the system does have a pretty robust query system where you can open up all of your leased OAs, all of your owned OAs by state. Once you get in there, you can export data into different fields. It uses just simple Excel exporting. There are also some reporting features that we don't have a ton of time to go into detail about, but there are those functionalities around there, and we can definitely get you some data folks to kind of talk through, excuse me, the different possibilities for using that data and converting it with your current system. And users will not be charged for licenses. I saw that question come up twice. We're providing them to you as a means to get you to approve your OAs and to look at your data. But that, along with that, does come that limit that Carlos spoke about, where we do have a limited number of users that we can have in the system.
And then we had well, I should first mention that looks like we've had a fair amount of questions also submitted through the chat. Please try to use the Q&A feature in the Zoom. That helps us get a better handle on the questions and be able to close them out as we answer them and track them. It's a lot tougher to do that in the chat. We also had a question asking, will the PBS pricing desk guide be updated? And yes, so we do have a policy that's updates that we anticipate happening very shortly that we'll be sending out to mirror everything that we've been telling you, to align with our OASIS process and that change in OA timing. So you can expect to see that soon.
Another common theme was how you can manage your users once you go live. So we are not locking you into these users for life. Folks can definitely leave or come and be added. There's a whole process internally for your agencies where when a new user comes and we add them, for you to be able to assign them different rights and for you to remove rights from departing members and get them out of the system. So that will be allowed. We'd like to ask that the names that you give us here in May are hopefully fairly stable, so that we're not trying to kind of go live as we're also trying to switch folks out. But we know that will happen. So obviously we'll be able to adapt and help you with that if you do have users that are moving around that time. And then we'd kind of ask that you kind of go live and see how the system works before you start making a lot of different changes. It might kind of be a little trial period where maybe you get a couple folks in and find out, we put the wrong team in. We'd rather have these 4 folks instead of these 4. We can definitely accommodate that too after go live. I will state that, we have the ordering officials. This has kind of come up a lot in some focus groups. If someone is an ordering official for your agency, they are an ordering official for everything. So it is true that you may have a situation where, Carlos is only supposed to approve for the East Coast and Lisa is only supposed to approve on the West Coast. However, both of them would have the ability to approve for the other one. That really comes up to the internal agency management of that. There'll be a smaller number of folks. It'll also be reportable and trackable. So you'd be able to see that, oh, Carlos approved one for California. We got to go talk to him and straighten him out, or vice versa. So there's a little bit with this of where if someone is in here and has that authority, they have to police themselves, very similar to now when, if somebody gets emailed an OA agreement, they may or may not have authority based on your agency to sign them, but maybe they do go ahead and sign it. The difference here is that you would immediately know about it, and we'd immediately have that record of it so that you could see when and how that happened. So there will need to be that kind of level of accountability in the tool, that if you do signify that you would like someone to be an ordering official, they will have the rights to do that. They'll also have the rights to release space or to ask questions. So that's really not at this time kept separately on security.
And then we had someone else ask, whether the user emails that we're requiring the customer agencies to give to us, whether they have to be name specific, or can it just be something as generic as a position, like, director of soever in their group. And I do believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dan or Lisa, that it does have to be name specific, that, we do need actual individuals identified. But of course, that's not written in stone. If changes happen, of course, people retire, people change positions, you can update what those users are within OASIS.
There's a question here about when an OA lands in that central queue, do all of the approvers receive a notification? They do. I'll say it's just the approvers who get it, the ordering officials. But because there's an action we want people to take, you'll get an email. So we're trying to keep it, because we know, most of you are not going to be in OASIS every single day. So if there's something that specifically requires an action, like we need you to approve this OA, you'll get an email so that oh, I got to go to OASIS and take an action. And then within OASIS, you'll also have kind of what we call action items and notifications, where you can click and see that stuff has come in, or, you've been notified of a change that is out there and is pending. So we'll kind of get to test those fairly soon and make sure that they kind of fit our expectations. Our big goal was not to inundate people with emails. So we kept it pretty tight. But if we find out down the road that, we kind of need a little bit more or a little bit less, that is something we can kind of adjust, and we'll be looking at for this next year.
And then someone else was asking about G invoicing. Yes, we are working with Treasury to implement G invoicing. That's kind of behind the scenes and is on a different timeline track than PBS OASIS, but we will continue to use OASIS when G invoicing is used.
And Carlos, there have been a couple of questions about cancelable, non-cancelable. I will say that both the CPA and the OA do show if an agreement is cancelable or non-cancelable. And there is some discussion in the wider PBS realm about some changes that are coming to cancellation rights. But I don't know, Carlos, if you wanted to address any of those questions more in depth.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that there's quite a lot to say at this point, but yes, both within the CPA, and I think someone else asked a question too, like, where do you see the CPA? That's been moved to our project management system, Kahua, that you can view that the CPA mentions whether it's cancelable or the assignment is cancelable or non-cancelable. You'll also be able to see it on the OA itself, as we showed on that screenshot. There, of course, is an internal conversation that we just started having with, I think our deputy commissioner started having with some of our customers last week on potential changes to how we do cancelable, non-cancelable, just given the nature of how work has changed in the environment. Certainly there's a lot of risk out there when we acquire space on behalf of our customer agencies, but you will always be able to see that designation within the OA, within OASIS, or even at the very beginning of your project in the CPAs.
Here might be my favorite question of the day. Can an approval be reversed if we hit the approve button in error? Nope. No, I kid. So there's a couple of different ways we can handle this. Number one, if it is an error, we definitely would want you to immediately notify us and say, wait, we did not agree with that. Please stop everything. I'll say in general, in the future, when you get an OA that you don't approve of, like we talked about, that's an Eminent Award. We've gotten to the point of awards. So there needs to be some really fast calls and communication happening if you're unhappy with the procurement that we're about to proceed with. Same thing here. If you approved it, you could always call and say, oh my gosh, Carlos hit that button for California. He wasn't supposed to. He thought he was looking at Connecticut. We can do something where we would revise the OA and send it to you again, so that it would show up as kind of a new action. And we obviously would not move forward with a procurement if you were not on board. So that is a way that we would address that, and we would not hold you to that. That being said, I do kind of want to pull back the curtain a little bit and let you know about a big GSA change that's happening as well. We're moving with this system to a limited group of what we're calling editors. These are folks that can create OAs and send OAs to customers. There's approximately 50 of them for the entire country, which is very different than now, where in some cases we have hundreds of people who may create an OA and send you the OA. Because we're limiting it to a much smaller group of people, these are going to be very well trained subject matter experts. We're anticipating that the quality of the OAs, which I know has maybe been a source of frustration in the past, is going to improve drastically. So that is the other thing I kind of wanted to put out there. We should see a lot less OAs that come over that you kind of have to send back and say, wait a second, this doesn't reflect X, Y, or Z. And we need you to resend it or resend it again, or you attached the wrong thing. So we anticipate, again, give us a little bit of a grace period, all of us on both sides when we go live. We'll probably have a couple of instances in July or August where somebody says, I hit a button. I don't know what I did, but something's gone amiss. Please don't approve that. But I think that you guys will see very quickly that the entire process is just going to become a lot easier, a lot more accurate, and then a lot more transparent, because then at a more central level, we can also look and say, what's happening here? We've got a lot of rejections that are happening, maybe to this person or this type of request. We need to surge some training over there, or we maybe need to get a different resource in there on our side to help what we're creating and sending over. So I did, normally we wouldn't kind of share that backstage stuff, but with you all, we just kind of wanted to let you know that the experience is, we're really excited about the improvements I think that you'll start seeing on the OA front.
And then we had someone else ask, will PBS OASIS mean that I no longer have to fill out in Exhibit 54? For those who aren't familiar with it, Exhibit 54, I believe it's only for agencies that have 5 million in rent or greater, is an OMB form and requirement. So you will still need to have your CFO group fill that out and submit that to OMB. And of course, we still provide our RentEst, like we said earlier, to help you fill out that information on what your rent is going to look like to help with your annual budget requests.
Carlos, where can they find their RentEst?
So that's a great question. Our financial office submits the RentEst to a designated point of contact within your customer agency, usually someone within the CFO group. If you feel like you should be able to see that information and have not been shared that information, you can, we will actually have the name of the person in our questionnaire that we send out that you can request, who's that going to, and how can I get access? Because I know that, some of our agencies are quite large, and it's just a matter of, left hand not knowing what the right hand got a hold of from GSA. So we'll be happy to provide that in the Q&A document, a name that you can, an email address you can go to for that information.
And Carlos, there was someone else who wanted you to repeat the CFR information you gave, I think related to OA approvals and what they're approving. So that might be another good thing to kind of repeat for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know it's hard to grab when someone says something verbally. So again, we will have a formal Q&A document written down, but the pricing policy section in the Code of Federal Regulations is 41 section 102-85, and I'll have the specific subsection that talks about what the OA obligates your agency to in the Q&A document that we send out to everyone.
I like that you can pull that reference right out of the air too. That's a fun one. We've also, I see a couple of questions in here about, can we get a copy of a CPA? I haven't seen one or haven't seen one in a while. We can definitely do that. We'll kind of send that out with some of the screenshots in the next month or so as part of our ongoing communication.
Just keep in mind that is kind of like a project management tool. So it's kind of like a different system, different group. So, you know, that again is within the Kahua system, not OASIS. So we kind of make a distinction between, you know, when we're starting your project and managing it versus the PBS OASIS system, which is used really for rent bills and OAs. And give us a moment here as we try to scroll through all these questions and pick some out, or at least mark some of the ones we've already answered.
So there's some good questions about existing OAs and how those are going to work with OASIS. So everything that is currently billing right now will be migrated over to OASIS. The one caveat is that the rates will appear, I think, as effective in December of 22. So if you have an OA that's been in place for 25 years, you're not going to see 25 years of payment history or rent history, but you will see the current going forward. As we create new changes, you'll always see, you know, what's been put into OASIS from now forward. It's just we can't migrate 20 years worth of data over. So you will see all of your currently billing OAs, all of the current rent information and future rent information for those. Our new OAs that are created in OASIS are going to start with a 2. So if you have an OA in New York, it'll be ANY 20001 and forward. So if you see a number lower than 2, it means it's migrated over, and 2 and higher will be our new OAs. So all that information will be there. If you have previously signed an OA, that information, that signed OA, that PDF version or even that hard copy, that won't be there when we migrate over. Those are kept in different systems, and they're in some cases just attachments. What you will be able to see though is when we're ready to bill, if we're using one of those, you know, say you sign an OA today for a space that starts in August. When we get to August and are ready to bill, you'll be able to see the copy of that OA that you signed that supports what we're billing you now. So those will kind of trickle in, like Carlos said, through the rest of this fiscal year and through FY24. By the time we get to 25, though, we want everything to have been approved in OASIS. So if you have a long project that they've awarded this month and you've signed for it, but you're not moving in until 25, we're going to ask you to go ahead and approve it again when we get ready to bill in 25. For those folks that are still around and are planning out their workload in 2 years. And that way we'll kind of complete our transition and not overload you with things that we need you to approve for a second time before then. The same with the drawings. We mentioned this in the presentation. For federally owned spaces that have floor plans, those will not be in the OA at go live. If you've been sent them, previously when you approved your OA. But what you will get for every new request is those drawings and floor plans will be included in the request. So you'll see them then. And then as we go through time and update drawings and kind of complete our full transition over the next several years, we'll get to a point where every single OA will have those floor plans associated with them. They will not be there for leases, though. I did see that question. Our leases do not go through the SDM process. They're not part of OASIS, so those floor plans are not there. But what the OASIS system will show you, again, mostly this applies to owned, but it could apply to leased, is we'll show you the space that you're actually occupying, the square footage, and that may be different than what you're being billed. So if you're familiar with some of our kind of process of billing, maybe you were assigned 1,000 square feet and we went through and measured, and now the space is actually 1,010 square feet. You'll be able to see now in OASIS, okay, the space is actually 1,010 square feet, but I see that you didn't change my rent bill to reflect that change. So that'll be something at go live that you'll be able to see for every single one of your OAs, and kind of just for your own information.
All right, and then we had someone else ask, how much advance notice should we anticipate receiving prior to an OA being generated for award? And if the pricing is higher than the CPA indicated, we will likely require additional time. So great question, comment. Again, when we start with OASIS go live, we are sending it right before award. So we do expect a timely review and approval on your part. If we find that what's great about OASIS is we're going to be able to see all the OAs that have been submitted, when they were submitted, which ones are outstanding and have yet to be approved. We will be tracking as we go live and starting with the transition that very closely, and trying to help our customer agencies have a smooth transition. But I would say if you've gone 2 weeks without approval, that's probably an issue. We're probably going to have some follow-up asking, hey, what's wrong? Is there a problem? We kind of need to know, because surely the longer the lag there is can affect the procurement. Those prices may no longer be good. We may need to resolicit. It does cause all kinds of issues. So, you can kind of anticipate that roughly. As sooner the better, but certainly if you've gone 2 weeks, expect some follow-up from us. I will also say we totally understand that, hey, projects change throughout their lifetime. That CPA is kind of created at the onset. It is updated in the beginning and project to reflect changes as we go through your requirements development process, but then it is finalized. We then provide updates through templates and information submitted on like any changes to the project. But hopefully whoever is working your project on your side is communicating with whoever your ordering officials are, and that there's some good internal communication. What we don't want to have happen is that, again, left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing, that, oh, this is for a lot more space than you were approved. And we can't approve this OA, but, if that is the case, then certainly let us know. And, if we can't move forward with that procurement, so be it. But hopefully there should be no surprises, right? When there's increases in rent, increases in space changes that the project team's been communicating with the ordering officials. But that again requires, also think about, like when we ask about your internal process, how that communication is going to happen within your agency and who those folks are that are working those projects.
A question from someone who was at a previous session. So great that you were at those. If you were not at a previous one, we included some links in the registration for those customer engagement sessions. And we talk there a lot about some of the pricing changes and process changes. So shout out or plug if you did not see them. They might be worth the 90 minutes of your time one day. But the particular question that we got from that was, we had said in a previous meeting that OASIS is not how you make agency space requests. And that is true. That is still the case. So all of the things that go into asking GSA for space and going through the project before you get to award, those will still occur the way they currently do, and will be outside of OASIS. OASIS gets involved when we're ready to send you that OA and get your approval. And then we'll also be involved throughout the occupancy if you have a question or there's a change in your occupancy that needs an updated signature, or then at the end, if you have a release of space that you need to send to us. And on that vein, I will also answer another question, that the release of space will be used for full and partial releases of space. So whatever type of space release you have, you'll submit it through OASIS. And then depending on if it's a partial or a full, it kind of goes through different workflows. And you'll receive an approval back from PBS or GSA so that you know, in the case of a partial, that yes, we've deemed it to be a usable block, a marketable block, and that it's something that you can return. So that will all be tracked through OASIS, and you can report on it there. Carlos, there's a question that I'll let you take about ad hoc clauses. Often there are special conditions that an OA will have, which are handled in ad hoc clauses. Will these special conditions still be permitted and available to add to the OAs?
Sorry, let me get off mute. So great question. There will be a few for common items that we know happen in a lot of our occupancies, and we listed that in the presentation, namely being if there is free rent or broker commission credit or agency funded shell project for that occupancy. Anything outside of that, though, would not be found directly within the OA. We do, however, have the ability within OASIS to store other documents. So if there needs to be any other information, or if there's any MOAs or MOUs or anything we kind of need to document, it can be included there for both GSA and the customer agency to find. And again, all general information with regards to pricing will be referencing the pricing desk guide.
And one that just came in, the system will keep all the historical data of all OAs created in OASIS forward and into the future. So you'll be able to see anything that we do from go live forward and report on that.
And then someone else was asking, can we ask FIT charge questions via OASIS as well? So FIT is our furniture and IT workplace solution, where we have a special program where we work with our partners in FAST, the Federal Acquisition Service, I like to refer to as the other half of GSA, when we're providing that furniture and IT and amortizing it into your rent bill. You can ask questions about anything on your rent bill and through the OASIS system. And of course, if you ask something that we can't answer, we will reroute it and figure out how to get you to the right person. So no worries.
And you may notice if you have asked a question about a read-only user versus an ordering official that we've been skipping those. We want to go back and triple check something that we heard today and yesterday about the security line between those two users before we answer those questions. So I promise we will answer all of those in the written Q&A that we send out in the next week or so after this call. We just want to make sure that the information we give you is accurate, and we'll make sure it encompasses all of these different variations of questions. So we see them. We were not, well, I guess we were purposefully ignoring them, but we were doing it for a good reason, and we'll make sure that we get you those answers.
And then someone else said, historically, we have used EOA, Row, which is run on the web, and eRETA. OASIS replaces EOA, correct? Will Roe and eRita continue? Apologies if this has been answered. No worries. We're happy to cover. Again, I don't even think we mentioned eRita, so great question. So yeah, EOA will be going away. OASIS does replace that. You are correct. Rent on the web will continue, and that is available online to be able to view your rent in that manner if that's what you're accustomed to. eRita is used for our RWAs and how you go through and approve, submit, and track those RWAs. That will continue to be used. That process is not changing at all for eRita.
And we got one kind of technical question about the OA format, asking about the escalation month. That is the month that your operating cost will escalate. So in an owned OA, that will now be October of every year. In a lease, that's typically the anniversary date of the lease. Or that lease block. So those would be the dates that you see. You would also notice that your rates on the OA for operating will show you the current rate through the end of whatever period it is now. And then you'll know that it's going to escalate depending on whether it's owned or leased at those different factors. All right, the questions have slowed down. So all of the ones that we did not answer, like I said, that we were avoiding, we will get those written down and sent out to you within the week with the correct answer. I think we've caught all the ones that went to the chat instead of the Q&A. But just to kind of close that out, we will make the recording available to everyone who was in today's call. We'll make the recording available, the slideshow available. We'll kind of send out the ask again, just so you kind of know and understand what we're asking you to provide with the usernames. And then we'll make sure that you all get copies of the Q&A, as well as we'll post them. But I know sometimes it's easier if it's just sent directly to your inbox and you don't have to go and look for that posting. Like Carlos said before, if you viewed all of this and said, man, this is not me, I should not have been here, please let us know through the PBS OASIS. We'll get you in touch with who nominated you in the first place, if that maybe is where the question lies, or we can sort it out. We do want to make sure that everybody has somebody by the time we go live, so that you do get to participate in all the training and have all the information. But we're happy to help if we need to swap some names out. All right, any last questions that have come up? I think we're 30 minutes early, so we did a good job with the presentation. I think we answered a lot of the questions in there. So going once, going twice. All right. Well, thank you all for your time today. We will definitely keep in touch and send you more information as we get closer. And Andrea, do you have any closing remarks?
I do. Hey, I just wanted to say thank you very much to you guys, Carlos and Deanne, for giving an excellent presentation and fielding all these questions live, and to Lisa, who is feverishly typing backstage to respond to some of the Q&As right there in typing away there. So that was really helpful and informative. And I want to thank all of our clients who were able to spend this afternoon with us today, and hopefully you got a lot out of today's session. There are many resources that Deanne, Carlos, and Lisa have included in your slide deck. There is an external OASIS website that you can visit. Of course, there's the mailbox that they've referenced, and you can certainly visit the CES website to look for those past session recordings when they did the original overview of OASIS back last year in April, and the repeat session in September. So a couple different resources for you to review there. As we've said a couple times, we're going to post that slide deck, the session recording, and the formal written responses to the GSA website for client enrichment, www.gsa.gov/CES. And we'll make sure they get emailed out to you as well. We've got, so that's, and then whenever you have your upcoming classes, Deanne, I think July-ish, we're going to look for additional hands-on, right?
Yes.
Training. That'll be super. So stay tuned for an announcement when those dates come up. All right, so I think the very last slide, Carlos, is just a little closeout, and I get a chance to pump the rest of our CES sessions, unless you guys wanted to comment on this slide.
There we go.
There we go.
Yeah,
Okay, great.
take it away.
So, so thank you so much again for joining us today. We actually have another great class, so we hope to see you again tomorrow. Come on back, would you? Tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern, we're going to have Understanding Your Workplace Usage with Daily Occupancy Data. So that's a class that's going to help you understand about some pilot activities that we've got going on to help you understand how to collect and analyze data about the trends of folks who are returning to your office spaces and where occupants are in the buildings, so that you can come up with, do some analysis in your buildings and think about what the ideal size and configuration might be for your workplaces to suit your mission and your workforce. So come to that session to learn about those data collection technologies and techniques that can be used to evaluate your workplace. And then stay tuned for announcements for additional topics that we look forward to offering you throughout the spring and the summer. And you can register and learn more about our upcoming topics and see resources from all of our past sessions again at gsa.gov/CES. The goal of the Client Enrichment Series is to engage our audience in workplace topics that contribute to your mission success and to help you effectively manage your real estate and workplace programs. So thank you again for your attendance and enjoy the rest of your day.